welcome to another show. Quick shout out to Chris in Great Falls. Sounds like they flipped on the switch. But this is about gaslighting and infiltration, and you gotta have gaslighting and gangstalking. Sounds like Chris is dealing with a little gaslighting. You're never quite sure if it's really happening. Yeah, they love that. But you have to have that in gangstalking. You have to drive people crazy. I often hear targeted individuals talk about the fact that this whole thing needs to go public. We need a voice. We need to rectify this whole thing and let everybody know what's happening. Well, I've already made videos about the problems with that, and they're pretty obvious. You can look at those other videos. I'm not really going to focus in on that. But what I'm going to talk about is the fact that, you've got two sides of the coin. On one side, people that don't know about it are just going to think it's crazy. And you got to understand why, because it really appears that way. That was the whole point of designing something like gangstalking or group harassment, because it's covert, it discredits people, and you can do it in plain sight and nobody knows. It's beautiful, it's scientific, it's effective, right? On the other side of the coin, you have people that are in on it, and they're just going to deny. They're going to follow the little pattern that they always do, and that's to trigger the individual, to accuse the individual, and to deny what's happening, and then just repeat. It's like a shampoo bottle. You wash, rinse, and repeat, and you just keep doing it. Time and pressure eventually wears down the targeted individual, and depending on how colorful and creative the scenario is, well, there's a lot of possibilities. But the point is that you could have the whole thing come out in the media. Okay, follow me on this. The whole thing could explode, right? Oh my gosh, there's been tens of millions of people that have been targeted individuals and blah, 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 blah. And it comes out, and then there's covert drugging, and we'll just say energy weapons and whatever. All the stuff that is classic that people talk about, whether they're right about it or not. Okay, we'll just say it all comes out. Well, now what's going to happen? Well, it's the classic response. No matter how much evidence you put forward, oh no, that's not. Well, you're not one of those people. It's like MK Ultra, right? There were people that were getting drugged, that were getting experimented on, that were actually getting killed, all kinds of stuff. And really, we don't even know to the extent of what happened. There's some pretty good stuff on BitChute about it. It's like a 4-hour documentary or something like that. I suggest you check it out. But we only have a small piece of what they really do. Who knows what the hell they were doing? That's the scary part. We just got a little fraction of that. But what happens? Oh no, there's the government. That's ridiculous. Doctors, professionals, a conspiracy, drugging people, keeping them awake, feeding them illegal drugs, doing all these weird experiments. Prostitution? What? You got to be kidding. And they did it. They did all of that, but it's the same thing, right? It's just deny, deny, deny. And you're going to get that. So it's one of the things that targeted individuals needs to know, and it's a process of gaslighting. It's also the triggering effect, because it's gonna frustrate you. So, when a targeted individual opens up, they try to get help or they express what's going on. Anybody that's going to start minimizing or undermining you is either unaware of what's going on, so they don't know how to deal with it, or they're trying to trigger you. Okay, and I've talked about the fact that there's only one way to deal with that. Okay, you realize at that point that you shouldn't have said anything. Okay, there's the realization part of it. The second part is that you want to agree with it. Yeah, you're probably right. That is kind of crazy, and see if they keep pestering you with it, because the whole idea, the whole motive behind it is to agitate you. That's what they want to do. They want to yank your chain. And like I said earlier, there's always deniability, because gangstalking is very well hidden, right? And it mimics mental illness. So even if you had some huge thing come out in the news and everything, it would still be problematic. Okay. So what I'm getting at is just, if you're talking about this, If you're telling someone about it, well, you know the obvious problems that you're going to run into if they've never experienced it. But we'll just say that you're dealing with an infiltrator. We'll just say that it's someone who's pretending that they're a targeted individual. Okay, well, they're going to play along with you. Okay, and I mentioned earlier, well, actually, it was in the prior video, that a lot of times you're going to get that fishing expedition, right? Because what better of a victim to pick? If you're somebody out there who's looking for someone to pick on, if you're a group of bullies or whatever, if you're that kind of individual, well, who better to pick than someone who's already, sensitized, they're already considered paranoid, man, and they're dealing with something that is basically not only unexplainable to most individuals, but it's just obfuscated to the point where the victim is discredited, right? And you can hassle them, and you can say, oh no, you need to go get help, you're crazy or whatever. If anything comes out or when no one else is looking, you can do something. But getting back to the point, if you're dealing with an infiltrator, right, they're going to play along with you, and then they're going to attack. They're going to get close to you, and they're going to stick their knife in, and they're going to twist it, right? Because remember, at the heart of gang stalking is manipulation. Okay, gaslighting is manipulation, but emotional manipulation is crucial, and that's important. If you were going to reduce gang stalking into its simplest form, it would just be post traumatic syndrome, right? It would be traumatic invasion of a victim, and it would be through subjection and abuse, right? Trauma. That's all it is. You are using the victim's self defense mechanisms, their natural defense systems of their body against them. The traumatic invasion turns on your limbic system, it burns the whole thing into your amygdala, and the targeted individual is sensitized, and the associations have reciprocity. Okay, so you're being boxed in. Every situation starts to close in. So the individual experiences workplace harassment, maybe covert poisonings, covert druggings. There's stuff that happens in their family, if that's the scenario. There's all kinds of things. They can develop agoraphobia. They can develop all kinds of problems. And they all are related back to that traumatic invasion. And when you're dealing with an infiltrator, it's just one more association, right? So you're going to have trust issues. You're going to have all kinds of problems. You're already dealing with isolation and so on and so forth. But the whole thing about talking about this stuff is that you have to realize the potential for that, okay? Because you already know that there's deniability, okay? You already know that it involves a lot of emotions with you because of the things that have happened to you. You already know that you've been perplexed along the lines of trying to solve this issue, and it's caused a lot of frustration in your life. So it's a trigger point. That's all I'm saying. So whatever it is, you're dealing with two sides of a coin in that scenario, because on one hand, you need affirmation, you need to express this whole thing, you're bottling it up, you're experiencing the frustration. On the other hand, when you talk about it, you become vulnerable, right? It's a catch 22. But you have to remember that, and you have to look for the signs of when you're dealing with someone, and you have to know that maybe silence is better. Okay, and I'm not talking about just completely. I'm not saying you can never talk about it or whatever. I'm just saying if you're getting to know someone, okay, the last thing you probably want to start talking about is the harassment you've experienced. You want to feel the whole thing out for a lot of different reasons. Okay? Because you as a targeted individual, you're not really dealing with things that other people deal with. I mean, they don't have to worry about that stuff. They don't have to worry about someone breaking into their house when they leave and go to work or whatever's going on. They don't have to worry about all the things that you're dealing with. They don't have to worry about someone trying to infiltrate their life, gaslight them, and drive them nuts. Okay, but you do, unfortunately. So you want to feel things out. And I talked about that in the last video, profiling your enemy. If someone is trying to butter up to you or whatever, they're saying all the right things. Maybe in the comments, someone wants to get a hold of you or whatever. Feel it out, okay? And that's not even really the best example. It's just the most obvious. And all you have to do is look at the comment section of that video. I mean, it was ding ding all the way through. Then again, being obvious can be part of the game. But the point I'm getting at is that you have to know that you're vulnerable in this area because there's a lot of deniability, even if the whole thing was to come out. And at the same time, even if you could prove it, you're still opening yourself up for harassment. This whole thing is designed that way. Now, when you're dealing with an infiltrator, when you're playing this little game with someone or you're dealing with an accusation, usually the axiom is supposedly getting down to the truth of the matter. Okay. So here's a methodology. Since I have to play this game, because I'm not the person who's being aggressive. I am not the individual who's looking for trouble. Okay. I'm minding my own business. But you know what? They're doing their job, and I'm gonna do mine. Okay, so just to give you an idea what I'm talking about, I've talked about the fact that when someone does this, when someone comes into your world and they're looking for trouble and they want to play a little game or whatever, they are breaking a lot of rules, whether they believe that or not, whether they believe that they're ever going to be held accountable or however they're processing that. It's just simple fact. Okay, and there's other things that everybody is responsible to do in this world. Okay, that's to seek the truth, everybody's going to be accountable to God, so on and so forth. If you're going to follow the biblical criteria, if you're not in Christ, you're going to end up under the wrath of God, right? um Pretty simple stuff like that. So when you have a conversation with someone, it's not that you're trying to evangelize everybody or shove anything down someone's throat, but you do need to present those things in a way where it's palatable. You're not trying to agitate anyone. You're not trying to trip anybody up or anything like that. But usually, when you're dealing with an infiltrator or whatever is going on, and they've come into your world and they're playing this little game with you, that's a big part of what's going on. And I've talked about the fact that I believe that at the root, this thing is spiritual. Okay, however you're dealing with it, whether you're a government experiment or however it's working, whether people playing God with you, however you're dealing with it, at the root, there's a spiritual element to it. Okay, and there is a spiritual element to everyone's existence, and they have a responsibility to know that. Okay, and it's the greater part of your existence. Whether these individuals know who they're working for, what is influencing them is irrelevant. Okay, some of them have no idea. A lot of people are convinced, and this is kind of interesting. They'll talk about, well, it's just religion, right? Well, no, religion is basically deception. Religion is nothing more than philosophical ideations that usually go to virtue signaling and are just clever ways to obfuscate the truth, right? The scriptures are very clear. You have to mine it out, you have to seek it, you have to search for it. And when you do, you're going to find it, right? It's not really as easy as you think. And, it's presented in a way where even a child can understand it, but when you get into philosophy and other areas, it becomes complex, right? Things get muddled up. That's what religion is. Religion is not the truth. Okay, it's just a mixture of things that look good that obfuscate a fundamental reality. What I'm getting at is if you present that in a way where it comes up in a conversation, right? Or you remind them of that reality and in a way that's not necessarily confrontational or accusatory or anything like that, you can really see what's going on in a person's heart at that point, and they have a responsibility to respond to that correctly. Okay, they do. They're going to be held accountable to that. Period. When the apostles went around, they presented the gospel in different places. And of course, what did Jesus say? If it's not received, shake the dust off your feet and go somewhere else, right? And it'll be a witness against them. In other words, they have a responsibility. Whether people realize it or not, we're all playing by the same rules. It just doesn't seem like it. And these individuals have no business messing with you no matter what they're trying to sell you. It's a very effective way to profile someone. Everybody has a responsibility to know the truth. Okay, you can pretty much, you've heard the saying, or you can go into someone's bathroom and you can tell everything about them. You look in their fridge and now you ask them a few questions about something that has to do with biblical truth, and you're going to find a lot about that individual. Okay, they might be intellectual, they might have a lot of book smarts, they might have a lot of things going on for them. They might talk a good game, they might seem friendly, they might seem like they have a good philosophy, but you're going to find out more by asking them something like that, and you have to know those things. Anyway, unfortunately, you're going to be playing this game. And, there's advantages to your position and disadvantages. There's a lot of culpability that goes along with meddling with someone. I suggest you just mind your business and let them deal with that. And it might not be till later. They're going to figure it out eventually. Well, hopefully, this video has helped some of you out. I've recently started a pretty serious diet. I found out that drinking Coca-Cola is really bad for your health. So if any of you guys are out there and you're trying to figure out what's healthy, that's definitely one of the things you have to get rid of. Look into yourselves. Be safe.